You are. Hi, I'm Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now, and now it's time for a man calling himself, well, thanks to Pat Patterson, the Right Reverend of Speed. We talked to him before and after all the NASCAR races, and Joey Logano got back into the winner's circle yesterday in Talladega. A couple of Fords finished 1 and 2. It's Jerry Bonkowski to talk about the NASCAR scene. How much of a surprise was it that Logano, who you hadn't heard of for, I guess, 365 days since he won and had the victory taken away from him last year, how big of a surprise was it that Logano not only won, but kind of dominated the end of this race?
Well, I don't think really was that much of a surprise. I mean, you could tell that they've been working hard at this. I mean, I actually thought he was going to win a race during the playoffs last year, even though he didn't qualify for them, and that didn't materialize. So it was just a matter of time before he won. I mean, I thought, Brad Keselowski, maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had the best shot of winning, but, at the finish it was Joey Logano, and, this shows that, they've had some struggles, but it's pretty clear they're back now.
Well, you say he's back now, and the winning streak is over, by the way, for Busch and all this. But what kind of an impact do you think that he can have? Because I remember last year during the silly season, there was always how much is that going to hurt him? What is the impact? Did he really win that? That sort of feeling. And what do you foresee Logano doing for the rest of the season now?
Well, I think this is definitely going to be a big confidence boost, not only for him but the team as well. They tried so hard, after the Richmond debacle last year, throughout the remainder of the season, even when they didn't make the playoffs, like I said, and then, the first, 9, 10 races, whatever it's been, you could just see that they were still frustrated, but they were building towards something. So you could just tell that sooner or later that win was going to happen, and it happened yesterday. And, the thing is, Talladega is such an unpredictable racetrack that, it wasn't so much, I think, Joey dominating the latter part of the race. It was more so, I think, Joey just being in the right place at the right time to maintain that lead, because, we saw a number of wrecks, as we usually do at Talladega, and, he was in the right place at the right time where he didn't get involved in those wrecks, and that ultimately led to his victory yesterday.
I know they changed the restrictor plates right before the race because of a crash and qualifying and such. Did you see any discernible, as an expert motorsports observer, any discernible change in the way the race was run with that change to the restrictor plates, try to slow the cars down a little bit more or not?
In theory, the cars lost anywhere between around 12 to 14 horsepower. That's pretty much all they lost. So, you translate it to miles per hour, you're losing maybe a mile per hour, if that. Mm-hmm. So, it was something that NASCAR felt they had to make a move to change, because particularly with Jamie McMurray's big wreck, what was it, Friday I think it was, or Saturday, whatever day it was, where he barrel rolled 7 times, and whenever NASCAR sees something like that where a car gets airborne or does a barrel roll, they feel it's in my opinion they feel that it's better to err on the side of caution, the err of safety, and so they go with the plates that are bringing the car's speed down a little bit, but still. Yesterday we were seeing, the majority of the cars, exceeding 200 miles an hour, 202, 203, 204 miles an hour. So, in the whole big scheme of things, I don't think really fans, lost anything in their enjoyment of the race, or the race wasn't lessened or cheapened just because they put a different type of restrictor plate on there. I think that, it was still Talladega. We still saw the big ones, and we saw the ultimate, the eventual winner come out of the pack, if you will. So, honestly, I don't really think the plates made that much of a difference, but NASCAR felt it was important to do so for a safety reason, and I'll never fault them if they're doing something for a safety reason.
Yeah, I can't either. I know we've had the discussion of, do restrictor plates actually make it safer? Because, you're having the cars bunched together, and you're saying, well, imagine the speeds and hitting the wall if you didn't. So, the argument there, I found it intriguing that after that wreck that they were going to be changing the restrictor plates a bit. I wanted to also, because of that, people had the backup cars out there. We spoke of this last week and all, and I just wanted to reiterate, because I was talking about how backup cars, it kind of reminds me, Jimmy Murray used one, I believe, it kind of reminds me of using your backup quarterback or your second string, infielder when somebody goes on the disabled list in baseball, when you use a backup car. But what kind of an impact can that have when using a backup car, if any? If you can just reiterate from last week.
Well, there's a couple schools of thought about backup cars, Marky. I mean, number one is, you bring a second car to the track just in case something like what happened to McMurray does happen. And in most cases, the primary car is the better car. Maybe the faster car, may have the better handling, any number of reasons why it's the better car. However, the second school of thought, and this is not really talked about a whole lot, by fans of the media, but, there's a lot of times where a team will put a second car on the hauler as the backup car when they may potentially be looking at using that for, let's say, the subsequent race. For example, let's say Dover. I mean, maybe we're talking apples and oranges here between racetracks, between Talladega and Dover, but I think you get the idea of what I'm saying is that, if both cars are essentially identical, or maybe the second car is better for a specific track that follows the race they're at that particular weekend, then, you make the second car, even though they'll be the primary at the following race, you make that as your backup car. And then, it typically going to a backup car is not always the best thing, but at the same time, there are instances where the backup car is the better car, but it's racetrack focused, or racetrack, what's the word I'm looking for? It's specifically meant for a certain racetrack that follows the one that you're at, for that particular weekend, if that makes any sense.
And if it doesn't, well, we archive this on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities Facebook page, and we can rerun it, that sort of thing until we get it.
Right.
One thing, though, let me just, I know your time is short, so let me complete this. Why did NASCAR buy ARCA?
It makes sense, and, a lot of people are saying, well, it doesn't make sense, but it really does make sense, and I think that, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't make this move sooner. I mean, ARCA's been around for, what's it been, I don't even remember how many years they've been around, but, they are a stock car series. They, have done very well at NASCAR-sanctioned races that they take part in, and I think they take part in, 9, a year or something like that. So, there's long been an association and an affinity between the two series, and, this makes sense in a business standpoint because now ARCA can essentially move up the ranks, if you will, and maybe do more racing at more NASCAR-sanctioned racetracks. The other thing, too, is, this, no one's really mentioned this because this just happened, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, whatever it was. No one's really mentioned this, but, I have to wonder if somewhere along the way, if and when NASCAR does make some major changes to its the way it allocates series, I wouldn't be surprised to see the ARCA series, move into, let's say, merge, if you will, with the Xfinity series, or potentially if the Truck series, and we hear these rumors almost every year that the Truck series is going to go away. There's not enough trucks, and it's just too expensive for teams to maintain them. That the ARCA series can move into that slot. I'm not saying for you. I'm just saying that I think that it's a wise move on NASCAR's part because now they have another, if you want to call them a minor league series, if you will, but they are, they're very professional. I mean, there's a lot of professional drivers that have raced in ARCA, and of late, over the last 5-10 years, I mean, we've seen a lot of drivers like Grant Enfinger, have moved up from the ARCA series into NASCAR. So it makes sense. I think it was long overdue. I applaud both NASCAR and the ARCA for getting this deal done, and I think it's only going to be good for both of them going forward.
I would hate to see the Truck Series go away because although we don't talk about it that much when you come on with me, Jerry, I usually see the paint schemes there are just, that's the best ones. They have the most unique ones. You don't know what you're going to quite get week to week and all this. And so there's some creativity with the trucks. And plus, I mean, it's trucks. It's something different. It's why I like Watkins Glen when a lot of people don't. I mean, it's, well, you know what? This is different here. This is sometimes I want to have strawberry instead of just chocolate and vanilla sometimes, And, so that's the thing. Sometimes I want your favorite dish, liver and onions. Hey, I will, Jerry, it's always great. Let's do this again on Friday if you have the time and all this. And of course, the Indianapolis 500 is, coming up Memorial Day. Next month tomorrow is May. And I know you've been covering a lot about that. He covers all the motorsports. You can read him, NBCsports.com. He's Jerry Bonkowski. The silly season goes to Dover next week. I'm going to go tell you who won and where some of the locals went to in free agent signings. Can they make the team that they signed with in the NFL? And we come back on Tri-City Sports Now. All right.